Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one person or one starfish at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out. I think you'll want to share today's episode. I was just talking to this young lady. I say young because she's a lot younger than me, but she's a rock star. Brittany Baker is in Oklahoma. She works for Refuge Medical and has for the last 4 years, has 4 kids. Her husband is a stay-at-home dad with the kids, which I think is really cool. I just love the non-traditional role. We were raised very similar with homeschooling. Welcome to the show, Brittany.
You. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's get into stuff. Like we were talking before, and I'm like, this is going to be really good, guys. You're gonna want to pay attention. I feel that. And share this with people in your life that you think will find value from this. So we were just chatting. We were raised very strict. Homeschooled, which I was too. Homeschooling itself, I'm all for, but very strict. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing and then what transpired when you became, quote, an adult.
Yes, so I am the oldest of six. There's 5 years between me and number two, and then the rest of them are kind of stair step until actually my little sister, number six, my mom and I were actually pregnant together later in life. So my mom and I had girls 3 weeks apart from each other, and my daughter's actually older. So the aunt is younger than the niece in our family, and they are just best friends. But
That's
oldest
so
of
crazy.
six, it is. It's a crazy story. Oldest of six, grew up in the Christian church, kind of was like in my youth group. I actually did like sermons in high school and, started my public speaking kind of there. And then I went on mission trips every summer. I was really involved. I raised money to build wells in Africa. I actually raised money to go over there and spend my 18th birthday, 2 full weeks over in Africa. And it was life changing. There's definitely a part of my heart that will live in Africa forever. And I hope to make it back there one day. But with the craziness of the world, I don't really want to be stuck over there. So I'm going to stay here for now. And shortly after my 18th birthday, I ended up making some choices. Ended up getting pregnant with my now almost 10-year-old. Definitely wouldn't change a thing, but me and her dad are not together. We co-parent from halfway across the country. We're on opposite sides now. And yeah, it's definitely been, you choose your heart, like they say, decisions you make always have consequences, good or bad. I now have 4 wonderful children. I have, two that were with their dad, and then two now with my husband. And my husband now is a stay-at-home dad with our younger two, while our older two go to school. And I work full time, so definitely non-traditional. But he's the fun dad. He really loves staying at home with them, and it's been interesting to see him go from like the military rough guy into the stay-at-home fun dad.
That's really cool. One of my friends, same thing. She's oh man, it's anesthesia, whatever, those people that knock you out of the doctor's office. I can't
Yeah.
say it. And so she loves her career and her husband stayed home with 4 boys. So
Oh wow, 4 boys.
yeah, 4 boys. I'm like, wow. So I think it's awesome. I mean, there's no traditional thing that people have to follow. But you made some choices, and a lot of people do make. I feel like I was very similar. I kind of went crazy at 18 a little bit. More crazy at 20, actually, I think is when it really started to kind of go a little bit off kilter. And and yet I don't regret, so I'm curious your thoughts. I don't regret how strict I was or up raised, because I probably would have gone crazy at 16 instead of 18. And so I feel like I was really grateful that my parents were, and they, I don't know, I'm curious how your family is, because they have like they're totally different now. Like they've totally changed. My mom's my best friend. She regretted some of the things that they made me not do, I guess, but I don't regret any of it. So what are your thoughts like on the homeschooling? Do you regret, like it seems like you did a lot of really cool things. Do you regret kind of that it was so strict in how you were raised, or do you just feel it was what it is and it made you who you are today?
It definitely made me who I am today. There was a little bit of resentment that I had to work through because I wanted to go to high school, but my family needed me at home to kind of help with my siblings. My mom, when she's pregnant, is completely on bed rest with oh, I forget the name of it. But she's like puking and can't hold anything down, hospitalized several times,
Wow.
and or hyperemesis, yeah. And so I just was home and I was kind of the second mom. I took care of my siblings while doing schooling. So there was a little bit in high school that I felt like I missed out on. and probably led me to kind of go down that path of like, choices into life, like you were saying, go a little crazy. But I definitely wouldn't change it because, like you said, I probably would have been crazier sooner. There was definitely a lot of things that I missed out on, but they're not necessarily things that were probably good for me to be involved in at that time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. So I'm curious because I did a fake scare on my parents. So when you told your parents that you were
Yep.
pregnant,
Yeah.
that kind of upbringing, how was that taken?
So I found out this is a really funny story, and I've shared it before, so I'll share it. My friend and I were in a CVS, and my friend thought she was pregnant, and so she grabbed a pregnancy test, and it was a 2-pack, and she wanted me to just be with her for moral support. It ended up being that I was the pregnant one, and she wasn't.
Oh,
And I remember like leaving that CVS and driving to the guy's house and just crying. I cried for like 3 days straight before I ended up telling my parents because we were really big into the church. We were really big into pro-life. We like were there for women. I was involved in the, pregnancy crisis clinic and things like that at the time for volunteer work. And I just knew like once you see those two lines, life changes. And I I knew there was not anything I was going to do about it. That was my kid. I made these decisions and she was mine. So I ended up walking into my mom and she was in the kitchen and it was me and the guy and the friend who thought she was pregnant there. And my mom still instantly turned to her and thought it was her too. And she was like, no, not me, not me. And then I looked at my mom and I was like, yeah. And my mom was just like, just dropped her face. She wasn't upset. She was probably more a little disappointed. I had, college plans and was going to be missionary. Had just come back from Africa.
wow.
And then she actually told my dad. So I didn't tell my dad, and I was told that my dad just kept saying like, no, 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 this can't be it. And they all loved me through it. They were my
Good.
huge support system through the
Wow.
entire pregnancy and still are. My
Mm.
mom is now my best friend. We
Cool.
work closely together. They actually moved to Oklahoma. I was still in Florida. I came up to visit them and ended up just staying in Oklahoma and basically moving up here. So I've never quite been far away from them. And it's just because we grew up in such a close family. We were all
Uh,
homeschooled, and I couldn't imagine like not being near my parents and my siblings at this point.
And for anyone listening, like that is so cool because I know a lot of parents, I've heard a lot of stories where a lot of parents would like ostracize you and you'd be like, especially as the oldest, you're the influencer, like you're out, like not talking to this girl, like terrible. Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm super proud of your parents. And like I said, I did something similar where we actually thought I had leukemia and I was probably, I don't know, early 20s or like somewhere pretty young. And and my brother's like, tell him you're pregnant because he's 4 years older and he's like a S disturber. So he's like, tell him you're pregnant. I'm like, okay. So we go for lunch with my mom and she's like, what did you find out at the doctor? I'm like, well, I'm pregnant. And mom, it was so funny. I'm super proud of her because I just remember her like gaining her composure. Like, and she was like, okay, what do you need me to do? And I was like, wow. And I was just like, it was one of those really defining moments where I'm just like, wow, my mom's actually cool because I figured she'd be like pissed. And
Yep.
she was really cool about it. And she was like, okay. And then I'm like, no, it just, and she looked at my brother. My brother's like, he was playing along. What a, yeah. And then she's like, okay, well, whatever, we'll work with through it. And then, yeah, I was like, no, it might be leukemia. And she's like, oh, I think I'd rather have the kid. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't leukemia and there was no kid at the time, but wow, that's amazing. So then you stuck with the guy. So the guy must have stuck around for a little while, thankfully. Maybe thankfully, I don't know
Yep.
if that's good or bad. And
Yeah.
and then you had another one with him and then decided
Yep.
to kind of part ways.
Yep.
Um, and just learning through it. Tell us a little bit about like all of that.
Yeah, so we were together total for like 6 years. We were engaged for the last year. We were kind of together on and off. He actually made the decision to split ways. He thought the grass was greener on the other side. Ended up not being that way, but he made his decision,
Mm,
and we kind of we've been split ever since. My kids still do go spend the summers with them and things like
yeah.
that. And we have worked through our co-parenting relationship as best we can. And yeah, now I have a husband with two other kids, so he, takes care of all four of them like they're totally his. But we have two little ones together now and married. So
Wow.
the father definitely works through all the choices and situations of life.
So that must have been kind of hard. You have two kids and you're engaged, you're like still a kid yourself.
Yep.
And planning your future. This is exciting. This is like your first person you've ever been with, like kind of crazy.
Yep.
And then he goes out and he's gonna leave you for someone else. I mean, how was that? And how did you process it?
Man, it was rough. So he actually left me for a girl that he knew for 12 hours when he decided to leave. He had met her
What?
the night before. Yeah, I was like mind blown. Everybody was mind blown. And
Holy.
it was just, he thought the grass was greener. He basically wanted to sleep with her, and didn't want to, cheat on me, which respect to that. But it
Yeah.
was still like, we have two kids together. We've been together for 6 years. We've been engaged for a year. Like we live together. It was beyond my, at that point, I was just like, okay. It was definitely a rough weekend. He ended up actually introducing our kids to the girl that same weekend. It was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
it's probably the most mad I've ever been in my entire life is when I found out that my kids met her,
Wow.
within that short period of time. And yeah, he tried to come back, and I was like, no,
Good for
like
you.
you can't just make that decision and throw everything we had away and then expect to just come back because you realized you messed up. And it was just one of those like that hurt. That
How are
broke.
you strong enough? Because I like this is really I think a lot of it is the homeschooling actually it sounds like to me, but I'm curious. How are you strong enough to handle like him wanting to come back? Because most people take someone back like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Why were you strong enough to say no? Like, good job.
I mean, there was a lot of signs prior. Everybody was kind of waiting for me to leave him. I
Okay.
wasn't getting, there wasn't any abuse, but I just wasn't me and the kids weren't being taken care of. I was still working full time, and providing for them, and ended up being, a single mom and worked 70 plus hours a week for several years. I remember like a 3 month span of not having a single day off because I needed to do what was best for my kids. So it was just
Right.
one of those like, it was really the father telling like me, there's something better. There's somebody better. You gotta do what's best for you and
Like
the
your
kids
dad.
at the end. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Like that. That's really cool. And then you moved up to Oklahoma and you started working at where you're working right now,
Yeah.
and that's where you met your now husband. So
Yep.
kind of cool. Things work in mysterious
Yeah.
ways.
Exactly. Yeah. My family moved up to Oklahoma to work with the company. I just came up to visit them with my two kids and then ended up meeting my now husband. My parents kind of told him about me and me about him. And then we basically just didn't separate for several weeks. He ended up coming back to Oklahoma with me, packed up my stuff, and I moved, or back to Florida with me, and then packed up my stuff and we moved out to Oklahoma. And that's been almost 4 years. We got married exactly 100 days after we met. So
Wow,
definitely a crazy
fast.
story.
Holy. Well, I put it on
You know, you
Facebook
know.
that my wedding date was September 21st, which is coming up. I don't know who I'm marrying yet, but there is a wedding date. So maybe it'll happen in like 3 weeks. I love that. You never know. So what gives
Yep.
you the strength to like I don't know, like where do you think your I don't know what the word is, resilience has come from? And just like keeping such a great attitude and be willing to chance again, um that fast, like all that stuff, where do you think that comes from and how does someone build it?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's my faith, my faith in the Father of, the universe. We have a very strong faith in the Bible and in, what we were brought through. I grew up in church, so I think that helped build a lot of my resilience. And
Mhm.
just to know that like somebody else always has it worse. I've been to Africa and Mexico and South Dakota on the reservations through my years in mission trips, and I always like watched these people have smiles on their faces and loving life, and they lived so hard comparatively to how we live. And that really taught me a lot. It taught me to be grateful. It taught me to be thankful. And it taught me to always remember, like, yes, life might be hard right now, but somebody else always has it harder. There's a roof over our heads. My kids are, not sick. There's lights on, food in our bellies. All those simple things was what I really tried to focus on that mattered through it all.
A lot of people get bitter instead of better, and you've got better instead of bitter. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And where do you want things to go in the next 5 to 10 years, with the company, outside the company? I don't know. Where are you headed?
Yeah. Yeah. So I started with the company as just like, entry level production, manufacturing, and have worked my way up to now director of operations of the company. It has been a lot of hard work and dedication, but I definitely I just want to continue to grow. The mission that we have to save lives while in service to the Father's kingdom is really what I put all my stuff in. That's why I wake up every morning, I come into work with a smile on my face because I always believed I was going to be a missionary of some sort. And this is my missionary work now. We spread the word, we spread, life-saving equipment, and we're really just there to make somebody's day better.
So tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, so we manufacture American-made first aid kits. Actually, like 5 feet to my right is our sew shop. We sew all of our bags here, and then we take the high-quality medical components, put them into bags, and then train people how to use them. We actually have a whole classroom right now set up for this weekend,
Oh, awesome. So
and
if you
there's
guys are
people
on
coming from.
YouTube, you'll see the
Yeah,
classroom.
yep, yeah. We have people from all over the country, including Canada, to come train with us this weekend. So we not only manufacture and deliver the life-saving equipment, but then we teach people how to use it.
Wow, that's really cool. I love
Yeah.
that. And then how old are your little ones? You girls or boys? What do you got?
I have 2 girls and 2 boys, so I actually
Oh,
got
cool.
the girl boy combo. Not sure how I did it. So they're 9, 7, 2, and 1.
Yes,
So
you're very
definitely
young.
a busy family.
Very busy family. That's so cool. So how did, if someone's listening to this and maybe they're dealing with some of the similar stuff, maybe they're young and they're dealing with, I don't know, maybe they are pregnant, maybe they're not. But maybe they're dealing with just a lot of changes. What are some things you would tell them? Like, if you could go back to your younger you, what would you tell yourself?
Oh gosh, slow down. That's what I've really been trying to tell myself. Even now, looking back, that's one thing where it's just like slow down, live life every day. One, you never know when it's going to be your last, but also everybody I feel like rushes through their day to get more done and more done and more done. Um, and then you look back and you're like, man, all these moments that I didn't just enjoy and live through, and really focus on. There was times that I'd be like, I don't think I looked up at the sky today, and that was one of those things. It's like just take a moment and breathe through it. I actually have breathe tattooed on my wrist because it's something I've always told myself and others is like breathe, just take a deep breath, move through the situation, and just continue to fail forward is one of the things I always remind myself is like, yes, this might, you might think this is a fail, but you're only going to learn and you're going to make a better choice next time and next time.
Wow, that's really cool. Um, And I'm curious because you don't homeschool your guys' kids.
Yep.
I'm curious if you ever will do it. You think you will, or just it's funny because my brother will doesn't homeschool, and if I had had kids, I probably would have homeschooled. So just curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, so our plan is to homeschool one day with me working full time. It's just I would probably be the teacher, the nurturer. Um, so we're kind of going to plan to get them a baseline into school and then probably homeschool them once they can be on their own 2 feet type thing. And it's just one of those I I want what's best for them now, and I feel like school, we have a really good school out here.
Okay,
I feel like that can give them baseline, and then we can kind of go from there.
that's cool. I like that.
Our
Very cool.
door just rang. I guess I gotta let them in. We have shirts that are supposed to arrive today for training this weekend. So
Oh, there we go. We got it. Gotta go do that. Um, that's awesome. We got a big shop, by the way.
we moved into 8,000 square feet, and we are quickly growing out of it.
Wow, that's awesome. Very cool. So, in wrapping up, I always ask three final questions and then anything that we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. So, first and final question is if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
Find what you love and figure out how to make money doing it. It's not a job if you love it in my world. So find something that brings you joy, brings you love, and does something for somebody else. It's filling a need, and then figure out how you can make money and provide for your family with it.
I love that. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Oh man. Um, I don't know. Right now, my favorite quote is "Choose your hard," and that's Cody Sanchez, and that's because everyone has something hard going on in life. You just have to choose what you want your hard to be. Like right now, I've been going to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning for 6 weeks. That's hard. Nobody likes waking up at 4:30 in the morning. And that's what I'm choosing my heart to be right now.
That's really cool. I love it. Inspiring. Number three is what's a one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Oh man. Um,
How do you
Probably
want
love big.
love big?
Like I always just love big, love the people around me, love what I do. So yeah.
Real big. I like that. All right. So you run into someone in the coffee shop and they're like, wow, that was quite the story. It's very inspiring. You're making something out of what some people, your messages come from your mess, I guess, quote unquote.
Yep.
And that's really, really cool. What's something we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
Um, so I've had 4 home water births. So that's something that like not a lot of people have been through. And I actually did like doula certification. I want to be a midwife. So that's something that's like a big part of my life, but that we didn't touch on that I feel like if you have questions, I'm one of those people that could help answer them and just kind of share my experiences because I've had all 4 of my kids as a home water birth.
Why? What did you find was way
Um,
better for that?
Yeah, so my mom had home birth, so I was kind of already like introduced to it, and I liked being in my house, in my environment. I didn't want to be hooked up to machines. There's definitely a time and a place when it comes to that,
Mhm.
but it was just one of those things like I got to choose how I wanted to bring, my kids into the world.
That's so cool. I love it. Guys, I know you'll want to share this. Like I said, it's an incredible story. All of Brittany's information in the show notes. Definitely reach out to her. I know she'd be happy to chat about any of the things we chatted about or whatever you want to chat about. Lots
Yep.
of different things. Getting married in 100 days,
All the things.
stay-at-home dad, getting pregnant at a very young age and dealing with all that, especially from the upbringing you had, kind of amazing mission work. Very cool. Yeah, I love all this stuff. So, guys, let's go
Yeah,
out there. Let's change the world one person or one starfish at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on,
yeah,
Brittany.
sure. Thank you so much. Have a great day.